Welcome to Viva Juego, everyone. I'm your host, Shake Monster. I'm here by myself, unfortunately, but I do have some new artwork to show off to you guys. As you remember, the guys were with me while I drew this picture, and now I've taken it into Illustrator. You remember seeing the first part of that, and I've gone ahead and done everything here in Illustrator, and now we have this, which is very, very cool. So I've just gone ahead and used this black square as sort of a frame of reference, but right now what I'm going to do is just kind of break everything down for you and show you guys how I got to this stage and just explain everything that you're seeing here for those of you who are curious about that sort of thing. And then talk a little bit about what this level is going to have in it. So, you know, now that I'm away from the guys, we're not joking around, I can get serious a little bit and tell you what's actually going to be happening here. So let me go ahead and go back to this. So you remember that this was what we started out with, and a few changes that I've made here is I've removed the circles at the bottom. I've added a nice reflection here, given everything a really nice sheen. I've made this tunnel out, and I've added these two panels here to make it look more like a closed window. And another really subtle thing is I've added sort of this neon strip here and an extra panel down here. So this makes it look flat, and this kind of makes it bow out a little bit. So those are the changes that I made. And let me talk about some of the interesting stuff going on here. It's actually one of the probably the more simple levels that I'll have. So I should probably count my blessings that it started out so easy. It's going to get a lot more complicated here, but some of the interesting things that I wanted to point out were the reflection, first of all, is a really, really simple to do in Illustrator. So let me go ahead and show you the reflection that I've done. So the floor here, I've actually divided the reflection into two parts, and that was because originally these two panels were going to open up, but now I've decided that they were not. I've changed it slightly, but it's going to work out for the better, I think. But anyway, now that I can do this, I can still remove this and show you that what's underneath it. What I've added on top is this, the reflection here is just a simple gradient. This is CS5 that I'm working with, but it's just a simple gradient. And to do something like this, all you have to do, for example, there was a red ball here. All you'd have to do is draw a red ball reflection directly underneath it. And it doesn't have to be the same shape. It can either be like this, a red ball, if you want to be precise, or you can do something like this where it just kind of gradually fades into nothingness. And what you want to do is make it a gradient, first of all, and have a light gray be on the left side of your gradient. Let me take out this middle. And here on the right, what you want to do is get a color going, and I'm using CYMK scale. I imagine it's the same for the RGB as well. But you want to drag everything straight to the right so everything is 100%. The normal black that you would get is everything is 0%. You also get a black, but this is a much richer black, and I'll compare the two for you in a moment. But you'll see it's actually a much, much thicker, richer black, and there's some kind of a color there. It's really difficult to describe, but if I were to drag the other, do you notice the difference there now? See how this is just like a grayish, but this is a much richer black? It's very subtle, but noticeable. So that's the black that you want to get. And then what you're going to do is, actually, it's got a stroke. Let me get rid of that stroke. Let me get rid of that stroke. I'm a doctor. Let me get rid of that stroke. No? That's okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to make the gradient so the white part is towards the ball. And if you want to get even closer to it, you can do white, but you can also make the reflection like a pink here to make it look really reflective of the color that the ball is. If it's just a white, I mean the panel here was gray, so using white was fine. So you have something like this. So now what you're going to do, this is where the magic happens. You're going to go to screen, and bada boom bada bing, you'll see that the reflection has now completely gone away. What you can do here, here's what I'm going to do. So that creates a that creates a reflection like that. That's how I made this. But another way that you can do this go to this. You're going to make this white. Get rid of that middle part. Make sure that this is normal. And then what you're going to do is, for the white, click on that white, double tap that, open up the opacity, and bring that down to 0. And you have the same kind of fading effect that you have with that. And then here, then you can go to the transparency and do like a, oh shit, I selected the wrong thing, I apologize. You can do like a multiply, probably not, do like a overlay. Overlay works good. Let me make this red, like really red. Okay. Well, it's on a green thing, but you can see that it looks reflective, like you're resting it on something, and that's important. So that's how I did the reflection, and it's a very similar thing happening here and here. So that's how I got to do that. So let me just go ahead and delete that. So that's how I did the reflection on the floor. Another thing that I wanted to point out, it's a little trick that I did, is the control panel is probably the second thing that I'm going to talk about. And you'll notice that I put reflective surfaces on everything. There's gradients everywhere. As I said before, I wanted to keep everything really clean and smooth and sharp. So you'll see all of this there. So the control panel is another really interesting one. It's got something with a transparency of screen over it, and it's green, you'll see. But when I lift this off, you'll see the control panel is actually all of these different kinds of squares in all kinds of colors. And what I'm intending to do is go into Flash and change the alpha of this to a different color every time, so that gradually, as it changes colors, it'll kind of do different things with the lights, you'll see, which is kind of neat. So that's what I did, and I'll bet you want to know how I got the squares so exact like that. Just a quick tutorial here. Draw a circle again. Like that. And it's pretty simple. What I did was I made this and another rectangle. Perhaps like this. We'll make that blue. And all I did was make a bunch of these rectangles. I did it with the pen tool actually, so it looked like it had depth. So these are just straight, but you can draw them so that they appear to be converging. For example, I can just take the anchor point and kind of bring that in. So it looks like it's kind of converging like that, whatever. So then here what you're going to do, you're going to go to the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder is probably going to be your best friend here. And now, a control. It's divided this into these parts. And they're all perfectly rectangular. And there you go. And then you can go in and change the color of every single one. And that's how you get your own little control panel. So that's kind of neat, you know. And lastly, I just want to talk in general about what's going on up here, because there's a lot of stuff going on up here. There's a very subtle, first of all, there's a very subtle shadow that goes around here, but also up here I've got a gradient thing. It's very much, I played around with sort of like the blending mode. This is a gradient that goes from black to white, circular outward, and then I laid that down here. Let me ceiling light. Ceiling. There we go. So if you check out the gradient here, it's a black to white, and it goes from the center here all the way out. And that shit, I undid it. And that makes it look as though it's kind of concave. It's kind of really smooth and sleek. We've got all these different shapes going here. And these reflections that I've added on each side also add to that. And I just did that. I drew around them, and then I clicked... what was it? This one. and then I kind of cut it out to cut out. You'll see it next time because I use that a lot. But that's what I did. So those are the slight changes that I made. I just added a very subtle shadow here and these two, so it looks like you're really looking out the front window of a ship. You know, like a very clean ship. So that's basically it for this tutorial. Oh, How much time do I have? Let me check. Yeah, I'm out of time. So that's all it's going to be in this episode. And then the next episode, I'd really like to talk about what you're going to be doing here on this level. And I'll probably draw something out, have some fun with you guys back in Photoshop where I'm just sketching out my ideas with you. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. All that jazz. Alright, I'm Ashika Monster. I've been your host. Goodbye.